Turning myself up. And I'm going to turn you guys up.
True. I mean,
And there
most
we are. We are recording.
true. Most people do not
Tell
hear
me we are
that,
recording.
right? Oh,
Yep.
we
Yes,
cool.
we are recording. And that's staying in because bloopers matter. Um,
Mm.
Greetings and salutations, travelers. Welcome back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Let's get to those announcements. First off, this particular podcast is an adult one that features some adults that use adult language. You have been warned.
Thanks, Dad.
The Pathfather has spoken. I will say that we usually keep it PG-13, an 80s PG-13, but sometimes they branch into R, so fair warning. That's the American rating system, by the way, for those curious. Um, Let me see. Current talk this time is we're finally coming to the end of our Around the Hearths regarding the CRs. And kind of at a good time. Pathfinder is getting its second edition playtest started up, so this will help people wanting to understand better Pathfinder first edition's monsters now that we're coming to the end. And we'll be able to branch into the new monsters that we start seeing later, depending on how many we get at a time. That should be fun, because monsters are always cool. But that's what we're going to be talking about today, and it's going to be CR20 and above. So we're going to try and hit all of those CRs. Well, we'll hit most of the CRs, I'll say. We won't hit all of them. We're going to miss at least one. So that's just how it is. Probably an honorable mention to the ones in there. Our next subscriber appreciation over at the Inn of Planar Crossroads is going to be at 200. We are at 160 something right now, which means Colin will soon be running a game probably before the end of the year, probably within the next few months, based upon how our subscribers kind of slowly tick up. And he will be running a one-shot that is going to be interesting. I'll put it that way. It will be a lot of fun for people, and will be very enjoyable for them, I'm sure. But that is what we have going for that. Do do do. Our giveaway this month, excuse me, for the Inn of Planar Crossroads is going to be that $15 Steam card for the month of March. That's going to be our giveaway. So if you're interested, if you have a Steam account or you want to get, you see something on there, there's lots of fun tabletop-y type games on there. So if you have seen one on there and you've been kind of saving up and now you need just a little bit more, maybe like $15, you could totally go in there and get that. Should you win. You need to be giant tier or higher to be entered in the drawing. Let me see. No new series right now, but we are. Oh, this is a good time for me to announce again that we're going to be releasing videos. We had another channel before we started consolidating and sticking to one thing at the End of Planar Crossroads. So we're going to be transferring videos over to this one. So we'll probably do that Wednesdays. And I'll probably start with that next Wednesday, not this one, so I can get this out. And we'll release them those days. And we'll just release them as we recorded them there and put them up there, because that's how it was. So hopefully you guys will enjoy those. They will be early days type stuff. They will be when we did not have quite as good of recording equipment. So do bear with us on that. But they were a lot of fun anyway. So may as well let you guys see them. And I think that's it. Tommy, do you have anything that you want to add before we begin our CR chat?
Man, I do actually. I haven't told anybody. I told Sarah, but I haven't told anybody else. We actually this morning, Black Dragon Gaming got a $90 patron, so that means the Doomsday Dawn giveaway is funded. It is happening. We're like this far over the line. I'm still kind of in shock. My head's kind of this big right now. I'm not gonna lie. but it's happening. You guys have until the 2nd of July to comment on the videos about the giveaway, expressing your interest. Patronage, again, is still worth an extra entry. And if we get around the $300 mark or up, something like that, around there, I'll run it twice. Why not? It seems like it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'm sitting here, like, as soon as I get done with this, I'm going to edit the magic video for the blog that just came out. And there's a lot of really, like, okay, so Miracle no longer has a material component. That's not 50,000 gold anymore. That's super exciting. Also, we have that tournament that we're doing. That's the 9th of May is the deadline. I need 16 really powerful characters to kill each other for Bloodsport. All these giveaways can be found over at my channel, but we can talk about that later. The time has come to start rounding out this series after so long.
Indeed. It's been kind of good for us because we didn't have to think, well, what are we going to talk about this week?
Yeah, we've been set for like 3 months.
Indeed. And I've already put in somebody, well, he's almost finished. I've already put in somebody for the tournament. I don't know if he compares. Yeah. Hey, no spoilers. No spoilers.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah. I don't know if he compares to Tommy's type of builds, but he's going to be fun to play.
It should be fun. Yeah. I can respect it.
Which is the thing. So.
Yeah.
All right. I've decided to go last so that I can round out after everybody talks about theirs. I can hit some that others have not. So I'm getting my dice box out, and we will roll to see who goes first. And it's going to be Joe.
Oh, awesome. I was about to mute myself. All right. So, I'm talking about two deity level creatures today. Starting in at CR26 is Kostuchai. I had the honor of playing a character who had the ability to convert outsiders to lawful good, and Kostuchai was one of them.
Yes, he was.
And, I was like, I'll handle this. So he became a lawful good huge outsider. But we're going to talk about him because he's chaotic evil. And he makes he's a good offset to the other thing I'm talking about, which is another deity level creature. Starting out, he's an outsider, chaotic, cold, demon, evil, extra planar. His initiative, not very good, but then again, he is a CR26 creature. Dark vision, detect good, detect law, true seeing, and he has a perception that's god tier. He has 120-foot frightful presence with a DC 33, and unholy aura DC 26, which essentially gives him more armor class. Speaking of armor class, his armor class is 44, touch 30, flat-footed 38. A lot of it is from natural and from profane bonuses, which are a nice bonus for GMs to add to creatures. In case you want to use a creature and they're not good enough to fight, so you give them profane bonuses, which profane bonuses are essentially just like typed bonuses that you can just be like, he gets a plus 40 profane bonus because fuck you. I don't know. He has 604 HP starting out, and he has regen 30, which either it's deific or mythic stops that regen. So that's all you can say about that. He has some weird defensive abilities which you can talk about. He can, like, Abyssal Resurrection, Freedom of Movement. That's not that weird. Rock Catching, because he was a giant. He has DR20 of a Cold Iron, Epic and Good. He is immune to ability damage, ability drain, charm effects, compulsion effects, cold, death effects, electricity, energy drain, petrification, and poison. A little bit burpy. I apologize for that. He resists 30 acid, 30 fire. He has spell resistance of 37. And he's vulnerable to fire, which is really what helped us when I was a PC fighting this guy. So he has a speed of 60 and a climb of 60. just something for a huge creature. He has melee +5, or his melee is +5. His melee weapon is a +5 adamantine icy burst warhammer, which he has 4 attacks, and then he does it's a 19 to 20 critical range, and it does 3d6 +24, plus 1d6 cold, and then he has a slam attack. He can throw rocks as his ranged attack, which he has 4 of them in a single attack. It's 2d6 +19. The space, he's a huge creature, so he's 15 and 15 reach. He has some special attacks. He has Clutch Foe, Crushing Blow, Favorite Enemy. His first is Giants, Humans, and then it has a See Below thing, which we'll talk about. Powerful Slam. He can throw rocks. Vengeful Strike, which we'll talk about. He casts like he is a caster of 26. So he has constant airwalk, so he can fly. He has constant detect good, law, and he has constant freedom of movement, like I said, true seeing, and an unholy aura. At will, he can do astral projection, blasphemy, cone of cold, desecrate, enlarge person, greater spell magic, greater teleport, telekinesis, which really came in handy. We really telekinesis up a lot of enemies. Shape change, unhallow, unholy blight. 3 times a day is polar ray, power word stun, summon demons, symbol of stunning. And once a day is mass icy prison, polar midnight, and time stop, which are also broken as shit. And he can use you'll see if you look at his entry, he has little asterisks around some things. Those he can use mythic versions of. His stats pretty good. He's CR26. I mean, you're probably using him over a CR. He's probably a 1v1 in reality. Or not a 1v1, but a group v1. His BAB, CMB, nothing too different from such creatures that have such high CR. His feats. I forget if he has. I don't think he has combat reflexes, which he really should. With so many attacks and with such great power. His skills, again, he's a deity. Well, he's not a deity, but he is like a demon lord. Languages, I mean, he can speak to most things. I'm pretty sure, it's not above him to learn another language if he needs to. So his Clutch Foe, when we get down to his special abilities, he can make a grapple check when he successfully slams and grabs a medium or smaller opponent. He takes a -20 on it. On following rounds, he can attempt to maintain the grapple. If successful, he can just squeeze them. So he's squeezing people to death, essentially. Or he can use them as an improvised weapon, which is kind of funny. I think, Tommy, do you remember if we used an enemy as an improvised weapon at any point? I feel like we did. You're muted, Tommy.
Yeah, I know, I have like 10 tabs open and I'm trying to figure out where Hangouts is. I remember a bunch of horse archers getting wrecked by telekinesis. I remember you guys had to fight Pazuzu with him and you conveniently had all the prerequisites to break the scepter of Shebexit just right there out of nowhere. Just, oh wait, we have a redeemed demon lord. Ha.
Yeah.
It was sweet though.
I feel like we had the chance to, and it was just kind of like, let's be nice. Because it was just it was the God Squad, as we called it, running around. So
a lot of paladins,
a lot of LG. I do remember using, what was it? I do remember using Crushing Blow at some point.
I think you did, yeah.
What was it? So you can once per round cast a designated attack with his Warhammer to be a crushing blow. Yeah, I remember that. You must designate this attack before making the attack roll. If he hits, the blow ignores the target's hardness and damage reduction, and allows him to make a free trip attempt against the target. This trip attempt does not evoke. There's no chance if it fails to knock himself prone. A creature struck by a crushing blow must attempt a DC 44 Fortitude save. Success means the creature is staggered for 1 round. Failure means it is stunned for 1 round and staggered for 1d6 rounds afterwards. I think we used it against something like a mini boss.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So he also has favorite enemy against female giants and female humans. He hates women. Um, he is a misogynistic piece of trash. Um, his favorite enemy bonus is increased to +8 against female humans or giants. And he can declare once per day any one creature is a favorite enemy, but only if that creature is damaged, humiliated, or otherwise inconvenienced him at some point in the past 24 hours. This continues for 24 hours. He also has powerful slam, so his slam attack is he has two primary attacks essentially. His hammer is a primary attack, and his slam is also a primary attack. So he always adds full strength bonus. And then he essentially has this Vengeful Strike ability, which essentially gives him Come and Get Me, the Barbarian ability. So once per round, he may make a attack of opportunity against anyone who hits him in melee combat. Except that this attack of opportunity gets a slightly increased crit range of 18 to 20 against female targets. It's also a crushing blow. So I don't know if we're like exactly talking about what we're going to what you would do with him, but it would be a good V1 for this guy for sure because he is not much for the mooks. Second, I chose at CR28 my favorite deity, the one that I've used the most for any character. I've used him for at least 3. Her. It's for sure her. Vildias, the Imperial Lord. So Vildias, the reason I really liked her was because of the red wings that she has. She has like blood red wings, and I just thought that was really cool, especially if you have a half celestial with blood red wings. And her priests tend to be like scarred and wrapped in bloody bandages. Even though they're lawful good, they're just kind of terrifying. She's lawful good, outsider, angel, extraplanar good, lawful. She has an initiative of +13. So besides being +2 CR to Kastachai, she's beating him in a race. She has blind sense 120 feet, dark vision 60 feet, detect evil, true seeing, zealous vision, which we'll talk about, and a perception of +42. Plus, she has a primal aura of 30 feet, which we'll talk about, and it's really good. I like it. That's one of the main things that's really cool about her. So her AC is 44, touch of 19, flat-footed of 34. She is a large creature. She doesn't actually have a lot. She doesn't have like a divine bonus. She has Dex, dodge, natural size, and +4 deflection versus evil, but nothing else. She has 610 HP, regen 10 over evil artifacts, effects, and spells. So an evil weapon won't harm her, but if you have an evil artifact like the Scepter of Shebegzin, yeah, that's gonna hurt her. Saves, her DR is 15 over epic and evil. Pretty sure that means that it has to be an epic weapon that is evil, considering it is a dependent modifier there. She's immune to ability damage and drain, acid, bleed, which is pretty good. Charm effects, compulsion effects, cold effects, death effects, energy drain effects, and petrification. She resists 30 electricity and fire. She has a speed of 40 feet just walking and a fly speed of 60. She has a melee weapon called Cicatrix, which is a dagger. It kind of looks like the thorn of a rose. It's a +50, +45, +40, +35. It does 1d6 +17. It crits 17 to 20, and it does 1 bleed damage and 2d6 vicious damage. So she would take an amount of damage for 2d6 extra damage. And she can throw her dagger as well, which also does bleed damage. But the important thing is that bleed damage, which we'll talk about. And again, it's one of the really cool things about her. She's a large creature, space 10, reach 10. She has Smite Evil 7 times a day, which gives her a +5 to attack and AC, +20 to damage, plus disintegrate any evil outsider. So I think it's described. Yeah. So it'll cause she can cast disintegrate freely on anything she attacks. That's an evil outsider. She casts, I believe, just generic spells at caster level 20th, and then she has paladin spells as well at caster level 20th. Her constants detect evil and true seeing at will. She can cast command, greater teleport, haste, paladin sacrifice, and pain strike. 3 times a day she can cast discern location, geese quest, heal, holy word, mark of justice, mass pain strike, and searing light. And she can cast mythic versions of the spells with asterisks next to them. She has paladin spells like Fourth, Blaze of Glory, Break Enchantment, Death Ward's King's Castle. At third, she has Dispel Magic, Fire of Judgment, Prayer, Righteous Vigor. Second, she has Bull Strength, Corruption Resistance, Litany of Warning, Remove Paralysis, and Shield Other. And at first, she has Divine Favor 3 times, and here's Defiance twice. Her stats, again, deific. She does have combat reflexes. So she is, right out of the gate, she is, in my opinion, as long as you have combat reflexes, you're better built than most things that don't. So right out the gate, she's better built than Kasuchai. Her skills, again, deific. We don't need to talk about those. She has true speech, so it doesn't exactly matter the fact that she has naturally celestial and draconic. Though why she has draconic, I have no clue why. And then she can lay on hands for 16d6 25 times a day, and she has a Seed of Life ability. Which Seed of Life, oh man, it's really. We'll talk about that one first. Forget about that. Seed of Life, Pathfinder. So, Seed of Life, an Imperial Lord can touch a willing creature and imbue it with magical healing power. The target radiates an aura of good as if it were an outsider and gets a +2 insight bonus on all saving throws against enemy. Negative energy and death effects. As a standard action, it can release this energy, turning it inward as a heal spell, cast level 15th, or outward as a cure mass wounds. Mass cure serious wounds. If not released, the energy dissipates harmlessly after 24 hours. They can use this 5 times a day, but only on other creatures. Another ability, and this is the one that really makes her good, is the Primal Aura. So, whenever she would be affected by a bleed effect, all enemies within 30 feet of her gain that effect instead, as though they were the original target. So, her dagger can deal bleed damage, so she can attack herself 4 times and give every enemy within 30 feet bleed 4. Just automatically, it says no saving throw, creatures immune to bleeding are still immune. But if you have a bunch of anti-paladins, if you're playing like an evil campaign and the boss is Vildias, all she has to do is have mooks just swamp the enemy, and then she can just fly around the battlefield. It's a bit rude, but she can just fly around the battlefield cutting herself, and everyone's gonna get screwed up real bad.
That sounds like a evil god area right
I
there.
did use Vildias in a game with Joe, and I made her chaotic evil to fight the God Squad, and it's super, super powerful to just open up a little, like a portal like this big, so you're technically in range and just start, like, here comes all this bleed damage that nobody can deal with. It was real rough.
Bleed damage is quite effective, especially for a rogue if you build for that.
Yeah, but Vildias is, like, before any of, like, my house rules, it already stacks. And I think it's like 2d6 at a time or something. It's a lot, and it adds up really quick. And there's a big heal check anytime you use positive energy to fix it. It's super rough.
Yeah, it's a heal DC of 25. So moving on to her Smite Evil, she treats herself like a 20th level paladin whenever she smites. But whenever she successfully strikes an evil outsider, the outsider is subject to a disintegrate spell. Using her paladin level as the caster level. The smite effectively ends after her disintegrate spell is discharged, but if it succeeds, she's nuking, just canute, just just dead. Um, it's kind of cool. Um, other than the fact that it ends it, but she does have plenty of uses of it. I think it's 7 times a day, I said. Yeah, 7 times, which is pretty cool. And she does cast like a 20th level paladin, and then she has zealous vision, so she can automatically pinpoint the location of any evil creature within 1,000 feet. So Donald, that rogue, if he turns himself invisible, or even if he's the best hiding, she can pinpoint the location. So she can come in and just be like, "Oh, you're in a box," stabs the box.
Oh, that does that sound like a
Take
fun
that,
scene
Solid
to...
Snake.
True,
Yeah.
true.
And if we're not talking, if we are or not, she is the god of martyrdom, and the goddess of or the angel, the imperial cardinal martyr is what she's called. She's the imperial angel of oh, I can't think of the of massacres. So sometimes she'll intervene and like destroy things that are committing massacres. And Tommy experienced that at the end of like my first game. He was committing a massacre against someone with his wolf creature, his were tiger.
It was a were-tiger. 2 Moons was a were-tiger at that point because Matt was very generous.
Yes, he was, and he got himself handed to himself by Vildias.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot of game nostalgia tonight in this chat, for real.
There is.
It seems so.
And yeah, that pretty much wraps up my my 2 picks there.
Okay. Let me get back out of there. And I will roll to see who goes next. Looks like Donald will be going next.
My CR20 and 21, it would be CR20 and 22. They are roughly the same. I would go with dragons. They are both worms. The first one, it is Umber Dragon, and then the second one, it is Red Dragon. For the most part, all of the dragons have a lot of the same character traits by this point. High CR, good saves across the board, a lot of hit points. Some of the familiar or same DR, immunities, SR, etc., with all the same melee attacks, bite, claws, tail, wings, etc. But the one thing that I like about the Umber Dragon, this was the first big baddie that a GM used in my first long-term campaign. This Umber Dragon, what is great about it, it have a breath attack that does negative damage, 60 feet in a cone, 22d8 negative energy, and a DC 30. So generally, Umber Dragons, they would have undead serving them. So picture this, you're fighting a lot of baddies, a lot of low CR undead, and they're almost dead. This dragon choose to heal their minions and hurt the party members in the process. It can also create shadows, which is quite great, and have a nice power, which, unless if the party by this point somehow managed to become immune to ability damage, it have a shadow breath, so it get to do 11 strength damage. It's at willpower. It is darkness, project image, shadow walk, vampiric touch 3 times per day, finger of death. Finger of death is a great spell to use, with a bunch of other spells that they get to use. Horde, looting, destruction, limited wish, wave of exhaustion, harm, mislead, greater command, slay, living, innovation, inflict wounds, phantasmal killer, lightning bolt. And generally, dragons are what they are for the most part. To use a Umbral Dragon and a Red Dragon Great Worm effectively, you need to have them in their natural environment to make them quite effective. So Umbral Dragons in a negative plain area, so they get to use the negative energy effectively. Great Worm would be in a fire-themed area, such as a volcano, where they can actually make use of the fire and terrain around them. One thing that I do like about the Great Worm Red Dragon, if it get to use the Incinerate power, if a player character is reduced to 0 hit points, they need to make a fortitude save where their character is going to be destroyed and be reduced to ash. So you would need to be very lucky on the save, or use a spell True Resurrection, just like the spells, the red dragon Great Worm have a familiar set of spells, which two of my favorite spells, which the red dragon gets. Time stop. If you use this effectively, you can give the dragon additional time to prepare or do additional spells to weaken the party effectively. Greater shout, mass hold person, which is quite great. And generally, dragons, I said this before, if you're using a dragon properly, it should be as powerful as the party effectively if it's in their own terrain. And then my favorite DD of all times, which I had used for 3 characters and a few of my NPC, it is the Archdevil Moloch. After CR25, you will begin to encounter the what would be equivalent of the deities, effectively demon lords, archdevils, and etc. The Archdevil Moloch, he is effectively a war god, effectively, and he is built to be a war god, effectively. AC 47 hit points. If you max it to the max hit points over 800, saves across board is fantastic. Good immunities for the most part. High SR resistance is pretty good. So unless if you're doing a lot of damage and manage to beat SR, acid and cold, you're not going to be as effective due to the DR for that. The Archdevil, his 2 weapon of choice is a great axe and a longsword, which does a good amount of damage. And they're going to be hitting the player AC for the most part, if can hit over an AC of 31 or 46 easily enough. So his great axe does 3d6 plus 18 damage, and its crit range is 17 to 20 times 3, so that's pretty nice. Have a bite attack, which he get to grab and burn people with. The longsword does a good amount of damage. Same amount of damage as the great axe, effectively. The spells of the Archdevil is useful to a certain extent. Airwalk, detect chaos, detect good, mind blank, shield of law, astral projection, desecrate, dominate person, fireball, dispel magic greater teleport, order wrath, slow, blade of barrier, empower firestorm, charm, mass charm monster, mass hold person, meteor storm, time stop, wish. And then all the feats is focus on melee combat effectively, just like a war god effectively. The good thing I like about some of his powers, he have Infernal Fortress, so he can effectively make himself a fortress to protect himself in a middle of combat. For his ability, Spirit of Hellfire, it does 1/2 fire and the other half unholy fire damage. So that is pretty nice. Swallow whole. If you're swallow whole, you need to make a will save, and you're probably going to fail against a DC 43, or you're going to begin to suffer the consequences by not doing things on your turn effectively if you're a swallow whole. Incinerate, you're reduced to 0 hit points, and your character is incinerated to ash, just like the red dragon. Through miracle, through Resurrection, Wish, or Divine Intervention, your character can be saved effectively. Fiendish Furnish, if you're close to him in a 10 feet area, you're going to be taking damage no matter what per each turn effectively. 2d8 hellfire damage. So no save. There is a save, but you can beat that if you manage to build to beat these DCs. Call weaponry. If you do manage to destroy his weapons, he can just recall his weapon again. And then any weapons he does hold, his crit modifier, it is increased by 1. Generally speaking, if you're facing against Moloch, you would be in the sixth layer of hell, which would be I need to actually have a look at the dam. It would be the 6th circle of hell. But generally, Moloch, if you use him right, he would generally have all type of devils under his command, as he is effectively a general of hell, effectively. And that is all.
Okie dokie. That means that it is Tommy's turn.
Alrighty, so before I dive into my 3, we've been saying this for a long time. We've been saying this, that CRs are arbitrary, and it's here at the end, it's here at the top of the food chain, that's just as accurate, if not more so. Like, if you're in a 15-point buy and magic items have been really constricted throughout the game, then maybe don't do this. But in my experience, and the only monster that I haven't used that we've talked about, well, I haven't used those specific dragons. I've used big dragons. I haven't used Moloch, but I have used Kashashai. I have used Vildias. These guys need the big 6 to keep up. If your party has the big 6, they need their belt, they need their cloak, they need their amulet, they need their ring, they need all of the stuff to buff their stats. Because if the party has it, the party's swinging over their heads, especially if Rock always beats Scissors, Paladin always beats Kashashai, because they're you're made to do that. So don't be afraid to take these guys and throw them into the stratosphere if you need to. I'm not talking about Cthulhu today because I like him, he's strong, and he has a quick saver die as soon as you run into him, but it's just not as interesting to me. But he was the last boss in a game that I used, and I had to give him 20 anti-paladin levels. No exaggeration, for him to not just get in 2 rounds nuked. But that's neither here nor there. My 3 monsters that I've chosen for CR20 plus, I have a 20, I have a 21, and I have a 27, the boss monster of this talk, I guess. To start at CR20 I am picking the classic, the Baylor from Bestiary 1, the King of the Demons. Well, I guess that's Demon Lords, but the biggest of the demons, the generals of their armies. I'm not gonna hang out on them too much because they're interesting and they're certainly strong, but there's 2 abilities that make them over the top. The first one is the fact that any slashing weapon a Baylor wields gains the Vorpal weapon quality, which means that any slashing weapon a Baylor wields has a 5% chance to outright just you're dead. Now, granted, when I used a bunch of Baylors, I only ever resolved that against a half construct who could survive without his head. So it was funny. I'll say, as Thorngate's head is just boop, 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 down a hill or something. But the average PC, that's a 5% chance to just, nope, you're dead. The second reason I like them is the same reason I talked about the Clockwork Dragon, and it's for the same reason that I bring them up, because sometimes in your parties there will be a power disparity. Sometimes 1 or 2 players are here and the rest of the party's here. When a Baylor is killed, they explode into a flash of fire that deals 100 points of damage, half of it being fire, half of it being unholy, to anything within 100 feet. There was a point in time when I had a bunch of Baylors in an encounter and they were exploding and hurting each other. Well, they couldn't. I think they could they're not immune to unholy, which is weird. So they're taking the unholy damage and it becomes a weird game of exploding dominoes. But the point is, I had a character and he's at the table with us today who is a lot stronger than everybody else in the party in terms of optimization. And he's just he's uber charging these Baylors. and then the party's taking damage for it. So it makes the players have to stop, have to think, have to strategize a little bit. On top of the fact that, again, like, it's a CR20 demon, it has a bunch of spells, it's got spell resistance, it's good at what it does. I will also say that I can firsthand tell you that I know it feels bad to natural 20 a Baylor with your own Vorpal weapon and then natural 1 the reflex save right after. That sucks. It was not good, and it was kind of my comeuppance, I suppose. Anywho, at CR21, my second encounter, like I said, we're not going to hang out on the Baylor too long. From Bestiary 5, I think I'm pronouncing this right. It's from ancient mythological China. I think it's pronounced Hundun. I could be wrong. Essentially, it kind of just looks like a big old humanoid blob of skin robes, and it's super gross, and it carries a quarterstaff that's got like a heart and intestines and stuff hanging from it. It's an aberration, and I used it in the last boss fight with Cthulhu because it feels really Great Old One-y, but actually it's just kind of like the King of the Proteans. It's got a bajillion different abilities on it. It has monk stuff. It has the dimensional feats. If you don't know what those are, essentially like I hit you and then like Nightcrawler dimension door over here and over here and over here, and I'm flanking with myself. And they're interesting, but we like this guy for a really, really gross ability that he has called Strange Attractor, which is the quarterstaff that he's carrying. I'm just going to read it off real quick. While active, a Strange Attractor hovers in place, and the Hundun can mentally move it up to 60 feet through space as a move action to a maximum range of 300 feet. If it enters a space with a creature, it stops moving for the round, and that creature must attempt a DC 31 will save. If they fail, they're unconscious for a round. If they succeed, they're nauseated for a round. So either way, if it's pass or fail, you lose your turn. It's just like if you fail, you lose your turn, and then I'll coup de grace you. If you're nauseated, all you can do is throw up and move. In addition, the space around the Strange Attractor works like repulsion in reverse. Essentially, it's its own gravity well. If you're within 60 feet of this thing and you try to move away from it, it's a DC 31 reflex save, or you waste your move action. So if you're nauseated and you're trying to get away, fail the save, you waste your turn. If you're a lawful creature and you begin your turn within 60 feet of an active Strange Attractor, you're nauseated, will 31 to negate. The nausea is a mind-affecting effect, so some spells and bloodlines and things will get around it. And if a creature has the chaotic subtype, they're immune. But it's still like, this is my favorite add in any given boss fight is a Hundun or 4 or 6, because you have this Strange Attractor, you throw it at whoever, and then they're either losing their turn or they're losing their turn. There's no ifs, ands, or buts there. It's really, really, really powerful, especially again in a boss fight, because that's where we are, right? This is the point where all the big guys are going to come out and fight, but it doesn't matter how big that big guy is. If the party's like 7, 8, 9, 10 bodies deep, and it's probably more because this is high level play, you still lose the action economy game. This guy balances it out. To my last one, I have to bring him back up. I closed his tab. He is a Great Old One. It was really hard for me to choose just one for these because I've used, like I said, I've had the honor of using all of the things we've talked about, exceeding Moloch throughout this entire thing. Here's a link because he's called something different in D20 PFSRD. It is at CR27, the Great Old One, Bokrug the Water Lizard. I like this guy because this guy has he's kind of like the Death Worm. He has a lot of stuff that he can do. He's reactive as well, and he targets a lot of things. He doesn't cheat the action economy, but he has, like, in response, this happens whenever you attack him. Specifically, the ability he has that I'm referencing is called Spines, which says that any creature that makes a melee attack against him must succeed at a DC 33 reflex save or get struck by a bunch of spines that react to cover what's essentially just a giant angry iguana's body, which it's like 2d6 plus 15 isn't crazy. Well, it might be. It depends on like your point buy. The point is, unless you have a reach weapon and you hit this guy, it's reflex or you take damage. In addition to that, this guy is venomous. He has, I think it's just on his, I guess when I say iguana, I should say iguana scorpion, because he has a, isn't it on his sting? Yeah, his sting is where the poison comes from. He also has a tentacle beard. I forgot about that, which he can grab you with, and it's super gross. But if he crits with his sting, he injects the whatever he crits with 3 doses of his poison, which, as we know, that increases the DC by 4. His poison is 2d4 wisdom damage. That's also, all the great old ones have nightmare things, as in like they cast nightmare on you, which is a spell that says that you lose all the benefits of rest up to and including the caster doesn't regain his spells. Super powerful. But to flavor this one out, any creature that has been damaged by Bokrug or has slain one of his clerics can be targeted by the Vengeful Dreams regardless of any planar distance. They take a neg 15 penalty on the save, and it's I think it's 3d6. Yeah, it's a DC 33 will save or 3d6 points of wisdom drain, which doesn't go away. And if you get drained to 0, you automatically gain a random insanity, which was like the course of that campaign was dive into horror adventures and learn all the random insanities and what they do, and most of them didn't make sense. Some of them were shopping addictions, but it's okay because that's Pathfinder. In addition to that, this guy has a toxic breath. If he's above water, he's surrounded by a 30-foot radius cloud of invisible gas. That is it's a DC 41 will save, or you're confused for a round if you begin your turn within 30 feet of this dude. You can hold your breath if you want for a +4 bonus, but that's still like, that's a big will save. In addition to that, we've got a lot of other stuff. He has a lot of spells. Personally, I didn't realize how powerful the spell Tsunami was until I cast the mythic version against a bunch of players that weren't prepared for it. And it's just kind of like you cast it there, you're being pushed down this wave, and Bokrug is following along, stinging and tentacle bearding and a bunch of all this really gross stuff. He also has like, you've got a lot of super powerful spells that are super powerful, and that's why I think this guy, I won't say he's better than Cthulhu, I won't say he's better than Pazuzu or even like Vildias or Kashchai or any of the other myriad great old ones, archdevils, demon lords, the horsemen, on and on and on. But he can target everything, and he's really reactive. And personally, when I used Haster, I used Cthulhu, I used Bokrug. There's actually, I had a weird Mindscape puzzle at the end of the campaign where everybody was supposed to encounter all the great old ones from Strange Eons as like 2 hit dice commoners, and then somebody figured out how to cheat the puzzle and like go into the Mindscape as their character. So in response, what I did was I grabbed everybody, all the great old ones, and just threw them at the party, and they all just kind of got wrecked. But Bokrug was the one that was the most effective, in my opinion. So that's the top of the food chain. That's the guy I'm shouting out, and those are my 3.
All right. Well, I guess that leaves it to me. And spoiler alert for anybody watching, I'm not going to talk about any of the 30s myself, which means we won't be hitting the top tier. The reason is I have a plan for one of them, and I don't want to give it away. And one of them is from the Rise of the Rune Lord, so I don't want to cover him. I'm going to start with the 23rd CR. We wanted to give people a sampling from each CR, or at least I wanted to make sure we got something from almost every CR. So that's why we're going 23, 24, and 25 for mine. 23rd, I'm actually going to get someone in there. I thought that there it is. The Jabberwock would be quite thematic. And I'll talk about next time we chat over on Tommy's channel about how I would use him in an encounter and stuff. But I do think that if you're going to use the Jabberwocky, don't call it a Jabberwock. Because that just gives it away. But this dragon has a long neck and terrible claws. The beast shrieks and babbles, thrashing its tail and wings in a violent manner. And this dude's pretty cool. I like him. I like him thematically quite a bit. I was kind of upset that I didn't get to find any vermin-styled creatures up here, but my Vermin Lord will have to remain back there with the Thray Queen. The Jabberwock, getting back, has blind sight, dark vision, low light vision, scent, true seeing. Tommy can testify about how scent can be quite effective when you're hunting things down. Necros and the cat are able to quite effectively do that when things are...
Yeah, scent is super powerful.
Yeah. Unless you're somewhere where scent is a bad idea. Because there are mechanics within the game that can make scent a bad thing if you try and use it. His AC is 40. It's okay at this particular level. That's not bad. But his touch is going to be 14, which is understandable. He's a huge creature, and his flat-footed's 34. But he's got that 26, plus 26 natural armor, which keeps it high for the flat-footed. 455 hit points, but I always max those out, so it doesn't really matter. Fast healing 15, which is helpful. The fort, reflex, and will are all going to be 20s or above. So his weakest is reflex, which isn't that weak with a plus 20. He could hit a 40 DC if he really needed to. But he's not, again, at this level, that's not a high DC. So, or I'll rephrase that. It can be problematic for the players at this level, but not necessarily likely if they spec'd into it. His DR is where he kind of stands out, and this is the whole thing that Jabberwocky and Jabberwocks have, is that 15. He has DR 15 over Vorpal. Now, how often do your players just go and spend money on a Vorpal weapon? Not all that often, in my experience, because it's an expensive enchantment, for one thing, and it's a 5% chance, because you still have to hit it. You still have to get that natural 20, I believe. I don't think it's just confirming a crit, but I may be wrong on that. But Vorpal is not the most common enchantment, I'll put it that way. There are other enchantments that people usually get, which means that if your players don't know that they're fighting a Jabberwock and they go against it, he's taken 15 off of their damage every time they do it, and he's got fast healing 15, which means in a round he's preventing 15 damage and healing 15, which means he is getting a net gain of 30 over those rounds. So that can be problematic for players. He's immune to fire, which is interesting. Sleep and paralysis, which is not crazy for a dragon, because that's technically what he is. He's an air fire dragon. And he resists acid, electricity, and sonic, which is good, interesting, because sonic is not always resisted. His SR is 31. He has some fun weaknesses, though. He has that fear of Vorpal weapons, and then the vulnerability to cold, which isn't really that unique. So we'll get to that fear of Vorpal weapons soon enough. Speed 40 feet, fly 80 poor, not surprising for his size. Bite plus 37, 19 to 20 crit range. Fair damage, because he's doing 19 flat from his plus a 48. 2 claws, a tail slap, normal dragon stuff. But he also has 2 eye rays, which is interesting. You don't see eye rays all that often in the game, so that can be fun. It's 15 d6 fire, 19 to 20, so it can crit plus burn. So that's kind of fun, because Dragon Breath doesn't crit, but this does. So that can be surprising when you roll it and say, "Oh, he crit," and you're like, "What? He crit with his weapon?" You could even you change that up with your players just reflavor it like he did it as a breath weapon. Just reflavor the whole thing and just use Jabberwocky stats. It'll really freak them out. They'll be like, "What is this thing?" But his space 15 feet. Special attacks: Burble, Burn, which is 66 DC 34, eye raise, and whiffling. So, he's rather poor on his grappling. For this type of CR, you'd expect numbers slightly higher for his CMD and CMB. And he's not immune to any of those things like trip or stuff like a lot of the others can be. So that might be a weak point for him there, if you're a player listening. But no metagaming. We do not advocate metagaming. But he's only, for a creature of this high CR, he only has an intelligence of 12, which is kind of crazy, because most of the things up here, even the things that are plants, like the moose boar, it's not mindless. That's a genius level intellect. It's double 15. It's over 30, I think. 28 to 30 on a moose boar, which is a plant. And it's a CR, its CR is lower than this. But this thing only has a 12, so it can be fun. A big dummy that's pretending to play as dragon. His special ability, Burble, is Jabberwock can burble once a day, 1d4 rounds as a standard action. A blast of strange noises and shouted nonsense in the various languages known to the Jabberwock, and invariably some language it doesn't know. Always affects creatures within 60-foot radius. These creatures make a DC 31 will save or become confused for 1d4 rounds. That's not something to sneeze at, because confusion can be problematic. Alternatively, the Jabberwock can focus its burble attack to create a 60-foot line of sonic energy that deals 20d6 points of sonic damage, 31 reflex save for half. The confusion effect is mind affecting. Both are sonic effects. At this level, sonic resistance may be a thing for the PCs, but not normally. And sonic effects can sometimes damage other things that are going on. So that can be fun, especially when they realize he doesn't just have basically a breath weapon. He has an eye weapon too. So yeah. The DR for him is only overcome by Vorpal. We already knew that. His eye rays are based against touch attack at a 60-foot beam. Fear of Vorpal weapons. This is kind of funny. A Jabberwock knows that a Vorpal weapon can kill it swiftly. As soon as it takes damage from a Vorpal weapon, a Jabberwock is shaken for 1 round. If it is hit by a critical threat from a Vorpal weapon, whether or not the critical hit is confirmed, the Jabberwock is staggered for 1 round. So no matter what, if you find a Vorpal weapon, the Jabberwock is afraid of it. Even if it's like a little dagger, which could kill it. Kind of rare that it would kill it, but it could. It is afraid of it. And will likely, if I was playing the Jabberwock, he'd be like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm gone. You got a Vorpal? I'm gone. Bye. But that's just me. Or it would stay far away from it. Whiffling. The Jabberwocky's wings beaten in violent motion. The wind surround the monster radius of 30 feet and is treated like severe winds. Ranged attacks take a -4 to target the Jabberwocky while it's whiffling. Medium creatures take a DC 10 strength check, which they can make in their sleep. At this level, if they are spec'd into even remotely strength. Maybe a wizard couldn't. Maybe some of the softer ones couldn't, but there you go. Smaller creatures, DC 15 strength to be blown away. So don't fight it on a cliff, especially if you're squishy. But if you want to do like an Alice in Wonderland weird kind of thing, but not tell the players that you're doing that, that's what I would do with this guy, is do that. The next one is going to be the Yamasoth, which I believe 24. Which I thought Farfnir was going to be taken by Joe, but I guess not. So we'll go with where is Yamasoth? Yamasoth. Where did I put him? 24. There it is. Yamasoth is a writhing hook-covered tentacles unfurl from this behemoth's body, at the center of which gapes a maw with a red eye in its throat. This is a Sarlacc pit. Is what it kind of is. It's an intelligent Sarlacc pit when you look at it in a picture, which is the only reason why I really brought it up, because it was fun and it fits my love for Lovecraft. It was from the Beyond the Doomsday Door, so right up that alley there if you want to kind of look at that. It's a gargantuan outsider. Initiative is actually plus 11, even though it's gargantuan, which is not bad for this, especially for this time. It's got Cloak of Chaos, DC 24. Nothing not a high DC, but that's normal for auras. True Seeing, Detect Law, Detect Good, all-round vision, 60 foot, perception is plus 35. It's got a 43 AC, touch of 18, flat-footed 35, 526 HP, regeneration 15 lawful, so you probably would have a lawful weapon if you've been playing in a campaign that's been leading up to this, which at this CR you're probably playing up to this. It has DR 15 cold iron and lawful, which is something that you see with some of the Lovecraftian and old god type things, is that they go with cold iron versus other weapons, and that's not always common for your materials. You have to actually ask for those specific ones most of the time. So that might be something you could look into for using against your players, or as a player understanding about them. And it has to be cold iron and lawful, which is not something you usually see. So there you go. Not unless you're fighting like Chaotic Fae, maybe. DR 15, if that's not met, it's immune to cold, death effects, mind-affecting effects, and poison. So no enchantments, but that's normal for this level. Acid 30 for resistance, same with electricity and fire, SR 35. It has a 30-foot move speed, but a fly of 60 feet. Good. So this is basically a flying Sarlacc pit, which is scary enough if you think about it. But it can definitely get kind of weird too. The maw, it gets a 36, plus 36, 4 bites, and 6 tentacles. So it's probably going to be moving and doing those things. Those tentacles have a grab, like most tentacles do. Its speed is 20 feet. Its space is 20 feet, and its reach is 20 feet. 30 feet with the tentacles. So the tentacles reach out 10 feet more, which is nice because you can get those AOOs, because it has combat reflexes and a 25 dex. So if you move close to it, it's gonna get you. Unless you're somebody like Hazaha, who has really spec'd into your AC, especially while moving through and dealing with AOOs. So there is that to think about. Once it's grabbed you, it can do 2d6 plus 13 constrict, which you're going to have... You can have almost as many hit points as they do by this level, depending on who you are. So you're going to have in the hundreds of hit points, even if you are not even if you're a caster, you could do things to get your hit points higher to make sure you can compete at that level. But that 2d6 plus 13 is going to wear you down eventually, and you're grappled while you're doing it. You can still attack and stuff when you're grappled, but not as well. It has a gaze weapon, a horrific appearance, DC 29, polymorph plague, which we'll get to, and rend, which it's 4 bites, 2d8 plus 19. That's gonna hurt. And tentacle transformation, which is the real reason I wanted to pick this guy mechanically, because versatility at this level is how you can start to survive better against PCs, because PCs usually are covering their bases. If you choose monsters that can also cover their bases, this is one of the reasons that oh, beholders are so frightening in D&D when you go to D&D is because each of their rays can do different things. Well, it's kind of that way with the Yamasoth. It has regular spell-like abilities, cast for level 20th, Cloak of Chaos, Detect Good, freedom of movement, so it can't be grappled, or effectively grappled, or held by your black tentacles, which is a great spell, but... Desecrate, which is helpful for certain things, greater dispel magic, greater teleport, statue, stone shape, telekinesis, DC 21, so its DCs aren't going to be super high, but again, Tommy's right, you can bump those up if you want to. Stone to flesh, flesh to stone, excuse me. Quickened baleful polymorph, which can be damaging. Phase door, polymorph any object, wall of stone. Earthquake, summon, and it can summon a level 9 any Quippeth, so this does have ties to proprietary type of Lovecraftian Wadamaru, or a combination of Quippeth whose total combined CR is 20 or lower. So say that you got that. Never mind. That's encounter stuff. We'll get to that in encounters, but that could really work in its favor, especially if it gets a chance to once a day do that before the party even gets up there. It can't be tripped. CMD is 66. Has combat reflexes. It has dodge, which is interesting. It has critical focus. Greater vital strike, because it doesn't have a lot of attacks, but it can move up and then vital strike with that attack. And that's where its bread and butter is, because it also... let me see, did they give it mobility? They really should have if they didn't. They did not give it mobility. So that's the only reason to take dodge. Why would you take dodge without getting mobility? But whatever. That's just my little gripe about that. Staggering critical, vital strike, improved vital strike, lightning reflexes, such and such and such and such. Nothing crazy that you wouldn't expect to see from him. Flies plus 45. And this guy's smart. He's going to have an int of 25. Once you're getting into those type of intelligences, he should know what's coming. He should know... He should be divining where he's going. He should be understanding those things about it. He's got telepathy 300 feet, and he speaks Abyssal. He can do that. He can just talk that way. He also has Quippeth Lord traits, which are down here. Immunity to cold and horrific appearance. All those things we've mentioned before. Now, we're getting down to where I want to be with him. Because Gaze Weapon, as a free action... already good. At the start of his turn, Yamasoth can gape his central maw wide to expose his horrific red eye lodged in what should be his throat. This gaze weapon has a range of 30 feet and polymorphs creatures affected by it into giant vermin. Oh, there's my vermin. I didn't even remember that. Didn't even think about that. There's the vermin. That's what the Vermin Lord has to do. He has to vanquish this. That's what he's been tasked to do by the Thray Queen. But anyway, into giant vermin, animals, or magical beasts. Fortitude 37 resists. That spellcaster's given him trouble. Gaze Weapon as a free action. A free action with a DC 37 to resist. That's not bad. Especially a fort. Because not all the players are going to have good forts. The ones that hit the heaviest at this level aren't going to have good fort saves. Yamasoth chooses what creature to transform victims into as they fail their saving throw. So he doesn't even have to decide yet. He's just like, you. And then he decides if they fail. This effect otherwise functions as polymorph any object. Caster level 20th. And as a polymorph effect, Yamasoth can keep its maw open for up to 3 consecutive rounds, after which its throat eye closes and its gaze weapon cannot be used again for 1 minute. The save DC is Constitution based. Horrific appearance, we already kind of know about that. We've talked about it a little bit with other things. Basically, it's a DC 29 will save or a stun with him. And to act normally on that round, they have to kind of do stuff. But let me see. There's a bit to his, or the effects except chaos. End the stun effect. DC 29 to will save to end the stun effect and act normally on that round, or accept the chaos into its soul and automatically succeed at the save to recover from the stun effect. This latter option immediately shifts the creature's alignment one step closer to chaotic evil. This shift in alignment can be fixed via atonement, but counts as a voluntary alignment shift for the purposes of atonement's material components required. A creature that becomes chaotic evil as a result of this becomes a willing minion and ally of Yamasoth. You wanted to play that chaotic neutral barbarian? Why don't you make that will save before the thing even starts, before you even realize it, like in the surprise round, before you're raging? How about that? How about that before you got that will save up there? Yeah, no, that could be problematic.
One class that I find, if you play to the monster's strengths properly, it is barbarians. If you can dominate them in a fight, they can wreck everybody effectively.
Yeah, a barbarian worth his salt is probably going to be defending against this, but a lot of the barbarian's powers comes when they're raging, which means if they're not raging and they enter that area, which is it's a cloak of chaos. No, that's horrific appearance. Where is that? It's in there somewhere. I don't know. When they enter that, immediately they got to make that. The minute they see it. Its maw, Yamasoth's central maw is a primary attack, and that threatens a critical hit, 19 to 20. Creature hit by takes a -4 on its next saving throw against the gaze attack. So maybe that barbarian didn't get it this time. Maybe he made that fort save the first time. Bite him. That's a -4 if it hits. And barbarian probably will hit. They're not meant to be, they're not meant to be unkillable or unhittable. They're meant to be hit and take it, which is problematic for abilities like that. Polymorph Plague. Any creature that has been affected by Yamasoth's polymorph effect becomes contagious. So that person that was gaze weaponed, they're now contagious. For 24 hours after the creature's initial transformation, any other creature that touches or is touched by the polymorphed creature must succeed at a fortitude save DC 10 plus half the polymorphed creature's hit dice plus the polymorphed creature's constitution modifier to resist polymorphing into a creature identical to the current form of the polymorphed creature. That can be problematic. That can be problematic for the party having to deal with them.
I'm just thinking now. This would make a very good campaign hook.
Yeah, you get transformed. Now you got to fix it. So, the next thing, the final thing he has is the tentacle transformation, which is the versatility I was talking about before. At the start of every odd-numbered round, so first round, third round, etc., etc., 3 of Yamasoth's tentacle tips transform into one of 3 different types of appendages: a serpent's head, clawed hand, or metallic blade. The 3 tentacles all change to the same type of attack, and the change persists for one full round, after which 3 tentacles revert to the normal tentacles on every even-numbered round. When transformed, the limbs make the following types of attacks instead of tentacle attacks: blade, so you get a talon that's going to do 36 plus 36 to hit, 3d6, 19 to 20 crit range. It's the clawed hand that is good, because clawed hand plus 36 to hit 2d6 plus 13 plus bleed damage equal to the damage dealt by the claw. Bleed damage equal to the damage dealt by the claw. So, upwards of 20 plus damage. That can get bad. That can 25 damage max. Bleed. That can get bad real fast. The Serpent Head has a plus 36 to hit. Also, it's a 1d8, and it's poison. 37 fort save. Frequency 1 round. 12 round. For 12 rounds, you're having to make that. Effect 1d4 dex drain, and slowed for 1 round. Dex drain. Dex is important. Dex is the almost the most important. It can't be argued it's the most important stat in Pathfinder. And you draining it. You're not just kind of you're not damaging it, you're draining it. That's bad. So that's Yamasoth. Oh, we are definitely running overtime by now. Yeah, I better get to the next one. The next one is Voice of the Damned from CR20. 5. There it is. Voice of the Damned, I'll probably go through a bit quicker because I chose it for reasons that are more thematic, kind of like the Jabberwock. Blasphemous pages cloak the creature's gaunt winged form. Within its depthless hood burns a vortex of otherworldly flame. So this one's a large outsider. Not going to be too big, so he's going to be all right. What I like about him is his AC 43. It's okay for this level, but his touch is 35 and his flat-footed is 31. Usually your touch is much lower than that, but it's that he's got a plus 14 profane and a plus 12 dex, which is keeping it higher, and that's the good part about him, is you're not going to have to worry much about those touch spells. Dark vision, see in darkness. Why would you need see in darkness if you have dark vision? But whatever. Detect good, true seeing, frightful presence 100 feet, unholy aura 26 as a DC. So that's not bad. The frightful presence is a DC 32. So that can be problematic in and of itself. It's got freedom of movement, so it's not going to be worrying about being grappled. It's got a DR 20 over epic, good, and silver. So this is kind of like what Joe was getting at. Those qualifiers that come before. It is epic, comma, good, comma, and silver. It has to be all 3 of those to overcome its DR, that's okay. You don't usually have a silver weapon ready at hand that's got the epic on it, but there you go. So that's what I would. That's not bad. That's DR 20 right there. It doesn't have any it does have regen 25 that's only overcome by deific and mythic, which means again, if you kind of add those together of what he's getting each round, that's 45 hit points. He's got 65. That's not bad. He's immune to ability drain and lots of different stuff there. The energy drain, a lot of the things that you probably wouldn't be trying on him anyway, but he does have that resistance to that, immune to cold and so on, and poison and sonic. So those are good to note. He has resist, acid 25, electricity 25, and fire 25, SR 36. His speed is 60 foot, and his fly is 180. Perfect. So 180, perfect for this large creature. That's pretty good. 2 claws, plus 42 to hit. Pretty nice. 4 slams, 42 to hit. Pretty nice. The slams are 19 to 20 crit range, and he can attack with his wings for 1d8 plus 7 with a plus 40 to hit. Or he can swarm. 8d6 plus distraction. Not bad. Blasphemous Embrace, Consume, Malevolence, and Racking Gaze are his special attacks, which we'll get to. And those actually work well for him. Constant Detect Good, Freedom of Movement, Tongues, True Seeing, and Unholy Aura. Now this guy, while neutral evil, he would be great as in play. The Grim Reaper's down here, but I could totally see someone subbing out the Grim Reaper for someone who has like all of the names of the party members written on different pages of him, and he takes one off whenever one of them dies. Everybody sees this happen, and he takes the name, and he takes the paper and he places it on the person, and it's like and they get consumed. That could be a pretty cool right there. But
the artwork is quite nice as well. If you do look the monster up.
Yes, and I encourage you to do that, viewers, on any ones that we are doing. But before I take this too much longer, he's got magnificent stats because his charisma is a little lower, but all of his others are in the 30s. Good, that's great for this level, especially having them balanced out like that. That's good this level, especially having them balanced out. His CMD is plus 44, plus 52 to grapple, plus 48 versus trip. It's all right. Combat expertise, combat reflexes. You better have combat reflexes if you've got a 35 dex. You want to get every AOO in there you can. But critical focus, flyby attack, greater trip, greater vital strike, improved critical on the slams, etc., etc. So he's actually built to be able to CMD some stuff, which is something that a lot of players don't build for when they're building high-level characters, because it's not something that you really are able to prep against, except with freedom of movement. And even with freedom of movement, there are some things that get to bypass that. So usually it's better to stay out of their reach and not get grabbed in the first place. Just kind of stay away from that. So it just depends. But his CMD is 84, 86 versus trip. Blasphemous Embrace, if he grapples you, which is what he kind of likes to do, it's 52. It can, as a swift action, cause its pages to flinch the grappled creature. The pages deal the voice of the damned's swarm damage, so he doesn't even have to swarm to do it. If a creature takes any of this damage, so even if it gets past the CR of past the DR of anybody that has DR at this level, it is subject to the swarm's distraction ability and must succeed a 38 fortitude saving throw or be nauseated for 1 round. The voice can only embrace one target at a time, but it doesn't have to continue grappling in order to maintain the embrace. That's a big deal. If the voice moves more than 5 feet from the pages or dismisses them as a free action, the pages are rendered inanimate. Any severe or stronger wind or any area attack that would damage swarm ends the embrace. That's not bad. It's basically the pages are embracing this person, and he has to stay there. So he embraces the wizard or the bard who's buffing, or the cleric. And the cleric, sure, it makes it save not to be nauseated, but how's it going to get out of that? You know, I mean, that's pretty tough, especially for a cleric, because they don't spec into that. Consume. If the voice of the damned begins its turn with an opponent in its blasphemous embrace, as above, it can attempt a new combat maneuver check as though attempting to pin its opponent. If it succeeds, its foe takes swarm damage and vanishes into a nightmare realm within the voice of the damned. It vanishes into a nightmare realm within the voice of the damned. That's pretty thematic right there. That's pretty creepy. The target must be of a large size or smaller. The voice of the damned can't consume a creature that has the good subtype, and or that is affected by an holy aura. Continue. 8d6 points of damage. It's basically like a swallow whole. It drifts within the voice of the damned's accumulated heresies. Non-evil creatures must succeed a DC 32 will saving throw, or be each round, or be affected by, as per the spell, insanity. Also bad. Though the creature that attempts that is deafened or affected by silence or a similar effect is immune to the insanity effect. So maybe your deafened oracle has a good way to go with that. It's charisma based and consume a creature. Each round of this, a consumed creature can attempt a DC 20 wisdom check as a full round action. If the subject succeeds at this check on 2 consecutive turns, it escapes, emerging into a space adjacent to the voice of the damned. The voice of the damned cannot attempt to consume an escaped creature again until 24 hours have passed, etc. A consumed creature can also escape by using plane shift or similar magic. Voice of the damned is stunned 1 round and forced to expel all consumed creatures if the creature inside casts holy aura or summons a creature with the good subtype, or if a creature either inside or out targets the voice of the damned with atonement, freedom, or holy word. Rather specific spells. Discorporate, that lets it turn into a cyclone of pages as a free action, and it's carried. All its carried, held, or worn items fall to the ground, etc., etc. It basically becomes a swarm of diminutive creatures. That's basically what it does. Malevolence, as an immediate action, the voice of the damned can attempt to merge its body into a creature it has consumed. This ability is similar to the magic jar spell, caster level 25th, except that it does not require a receptacle the target can resist. 32 is the will save. If the creature fails, the voice of the damned vanishes into the possessed creature, basically. And no one knows that's happened necessarily, unless they know that this thing can do that. So, there you go. Master of Symbols. It has basically all the language, and any word with symbol in its name, it can treat as if it were a standard action to cast. That's pretty cool. Once per day, it can cast Symbol of Death as a swift action. Step right there. Additionally, it does not need to surface on which to inscribe symbols. They merely float. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty nice to counter a rogue in the party who's good at disabling traps.
Yeah, then they gotta disable mid-combat. That's not a good idea. Tenacious. The voice gains a +8 racial combat maneuver for combat maneuvers and +4 on its CMD. Racking Gaze is the one we've got last. The voice of the damned has a gaze attack 50 feet, that deals 8d10 points of damage and 1d4 points of strength damage. Whew. A creature that succeeds at a DC 32 fortitude saving throw negates the strength damage, but not the physical damage. So there we go. It's 8d8. It's 8d10 points of damage. And you can fortitude save to not take the strength damage, but the regular damage still comes through. That's pretty bad. And there's no once per round or once every so many rounds. I wonder if there's a miswrite in that, because that's pretty good. Anyway, that is the last we have, and I think we are. Yep, we're in an hour and a half. So, let's make it quick. Does anybody have anything else they want to say?
There, I said something. No,
Yes.
I'm good.
For honorable mention, the other DD figures, Archdevils, demon lords, they're quite interesting just to have a look at all their powers and what they can do.
Yeah, none of those guys are bad at all. Well, some of them are evil, but none of them are bad. It's my favorite reason to pick up the adventure paths because that's where they exist, like the back of Strange Eons, Wrath of the Righteous. Off the top of my head, that's all I got. But those Wrath of the Righteous, that whole adventure path has a demon lord in the back in the bestiaries, and then Strange Eons has a great old one in the back of those. So
there you go. All right, then. Yes, we encourage everybody to look at the ones we didn't cover. Tell us what you liked down below if you want to. And I believe that's everything we have. So if there's no other announcements, we will go ahead and sign out. As always, travelers, have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
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 There it is.